Hello, and welcome to the 2022 Virginia Festival of the Book, presenting a virtual school visit with Sana Rafi. I'm Sarah Lawson, Associate Director of the Virginia Center for the Book, a program of Virginia Humanities. Thanks for joining us. A couple notes before we begin. Please share your questions for the author using the Q&A tab on Zoom, and we will get to as many as possible at the end of today's event. This event also has optional closed captioning, which you can turn on and customize at any time with the closed captions tab at the bottom of your window. Also, if you'd like to rewatch this event later, it will be available along with other videos from festival speakers at vabook.org/watch. Now, I'm pleased to introduce today's featured author. Sana Rafi, author of Little Seeds of Promise, earned her MFA from Columbia University. She is a Pakistani American who is passionate about showcasing Muslim and immigrant characters in her books. In Little Seeds of Promise, when Maya moves to a different country, she feels lonely and lost. Everything and everyone seems so unfamiliar, and she wonders if she will ever find a way to fit in. Longing for her home, she holds tightly to the special seeds that her grandmother gave her, afraid to plant them. Can she take the risk that they and she might grow and bloom in this new place? Sana, thanks so much for being here. Take it away.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here. Hi, everyone. I am just going to share my screen. Give me 1 second. I will be talking about my book, A Little Seeds of Promise. Actually, you know what? Let me stop sharing for a second and let me actually just talk with you guys for a minute. You guys can all see me, right? I hope so. If you can't see me, just ping me. I wrote Little Seeds of Promise because I was an immigrant once. I was maybe 12 when I moved to a different country. So I was born and raised in Pakistan, and that's all I ever knew. I had never ever left Pakistan. I was a really happy kid. I loved my country. I loved my life over there. And then one day, my dad said he got a different job, and we were moving. And when I left Pakistan forever, I didn't really understand what was happening. I thought, maybe I'll come back. Maybe it's just a trip. Maybe it's not so long. Maybe it's not that far. And, it was one of the most difficult experiences of my life. But it stayed with me for a very long time, and it still does, which is why I wrote this book about Maya. So in a way, Maya is kind of like my own story. It's obviously fictionalized, but it is based on my own experience. And I'll talk a little bit more about my own experience of moving to a whole different country and what that was like and where I moved and all my struggles and accomplishments after I'm done reading the book. But I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a context of why I wrote this book and what this book is about. I used the word immigrant, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody knows what that is. So immigration is the process of moving to a different country and living there permanently. So when you are an immigrant, you are somebody who is new in a country and you are now going to make a life over there. So that's what I was. I was an immigrant along with my parents and my brother and my sister. We were all immigrants, and everybody, was at a different age. My parents were pretty young. They were only in their 30s. And my brother was only in 4th grade. My sister was only 4 years old. And I was in middle school. And that's also a very tricky age. So, I think it was hard for everybody in different ways. But it was also good. It was also a very positive experience in different ways. But that's a little bit about my story and why I wrote this book called Little Seeds of Promise. And I'll talk more about it after I am done reading. Let me share my screen so we can begin. Here we go. Little Seeds of Promise. written by me, Sana Rafi, and illustrated by Rinia Metalinu. Rinia is a Greek illustrator who just did the most wonderful job. I loved all her drawings and pictures and sketches along the way that she sent them to me when we were writing and producing this book. So you'll see. I hope you really like her art as well. I loved it. Here, Maya thought the world was unfriendly and cold. Lonely and lost, she missed the home she had left behind. There, Maya slept to the night watchman's song and woke to the sweet adhan. There, people said Assalamu alaikum and danced in the warm monsoon. There lived Nani, sweet and tender, with 100 wrinkles on her face. She always smelled like flowers. Before Maya said goodbye, Nani gave her a gift, little seeds of promise. She whispered, "Bloom where you are planted, Maya." But Maya didn't know how to do that. Here, life was not the same. The ground was so hard, so stubborn, her seeds would never blossom. Not here. Maya carried the seeds with her everywhere she went, to the post office, to the library, and even to school. But she never showed them to anyone. Maya guarded them like a secret. Whenever Maya felt sad, she closed her eyes and imagined Nani right here. "Little Maya, dig deep and plant them," said Nani. "One day you'll be surrounded by flowers." If only, Maya thought. There, Nani and Maya danced, laughed, and prayed among flowers. If her seeds did grow into flowers here, she'd count them like stars in the sky. Maybe she could plant a seed, only one. Maya found a patch of earth. She dug deep, placed her seed, and covered it with dirt. Maya longed for rain, but she knew better than to wait for it. Maya hoped for warmth. She made way for the rays from the sun. Days passed and nothing happened. Maya wished she could crack open the seed and force it to grow. But Nani reminded her that seeds have a long journey from the ground up. They need lots of rainfall, days of sunshine, and care. So Maya greeted her seed with love and kindness. She imagined it growing strong. Before long, Maya felt something whirling inside of her, ready to burst out into the world. She imagined her seeds growing into little buds, pretty florets, and finally, sweet-smelling flowers. Oops. She heard Nani saying, "Little Maya, let your seeds be free. She loved keeping her seeds of promise safe, but they needed to stretch out, get bigger, and taller. Could she be brave enough to let them go? Could she share them with the world? Maya smiled. She was ready to let her seeds grow. One day, she looked back, and her seeds of promise stood so tall, so bright, like hope, shooting out of the earth toward the sky. Their blooms smelled ever so familiar, like Nani over there, like the warm breeze here, like home. And that is the story of Maya. Thank you so much for listening to me read my book. So like I said earlier, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about my own experience. So I grew up in Pakistan, and I used to live in this big house with my parents, my siblings, and also my grandparents. So in that part of the world, this is very common. People live with their grandparents and grow up with them. So my grandparents lived downstairs, and we all lived upstairs. But they were part of my life every single day. I ate all my meals with them. Every time I came back from school, the first thing I did was go to their room and say hi to them, greet them, ask them how they were doing. And then I'd go upstairs to see my own parents. You know, it was just a very, very special upbringing because they were always there. And I was surrounded by these very loving family members. And it wasn't just my parents, but it was so many of us in one house. There was always somebody talking and somebody laughing and somebody visiting us, somebody coming to see my grandparents or my parents. So there were lots of cousins. There was just lots of laughter. When I think back to that time, just lots of warmth and, a really beautiful life. And then suddenly, one day, I moved. I left Pakistan and I went to a country called Switzerland. Now, Switzerland was, I want to say it was like 6 to 8 hours flight time from Pakistan. It was really far. It wasn't super close. It was not a place that we could visit to Pakistan from every few months. It was really expensive. So when we moved, all of a sudden, everything that was familiar to me was taken away. So I didn't have my grandparents anymore with me. I didn't have my cousins. I didn't know the language that people spoke in Switzerland. So they didn't speak English, and they definitely did not speak Urdu, which is my mother tongue, which is what I spoke with my grandparents and my cousins in Pakistan. And in Switzerland, they spoke German and they spoke French and they spoke Italian. And I didn't know any of those languages. So it was really, really hard even to communicate with anybody. I couldn't go to a shop and say, hello, I would like to buy this, or how much is this? The currency was different, right? In Pakistan, everything was sold in rupees. And in Switzerland, everything was sold in francs. I had never even heard of francs before. So lots of small changes, which, when put together, just felt like, wow, everything is so different here. So I wrote the story of Maya based on my own experience, because when I first moved there, I also felt really lonely and lost. And I also felt that I could never adjust there. I was like, this is never going to become my home. Just like the way Maya doesn't want to plant her seeds because she says, they're not going to grow here. These seeds belong in Pakistan. That's where they would bloom. They're not going to grow here. And that's kind of how I felt. So I use that as a metaphor. I use seeds as a metaphor for how actually I felt as an immigrant, because I also kind of didn't want to grow there. I didn't want to adjust. I wanted to go back home. And it was really tough for the first few months. But then the thing about doing hard things is that you learn, right? You become more resilient, you become more brave, you become more courageous. So after a while, I realized, okay, I have to make this place my home. And I saw everybody around me doing the same. I saw my mom learning a little bit of German so she could go grocery shopping and buying new things from the grocery store that we had never, ever had before. All kinds of cheese and buttery croissants and all kinds of stuff that we had not had before, which was delicious. And I saw my dad start a new job and speak French. He was the only one of us who knew a different language. So, he started work in French, and I saw him go to work every day and put on a suit and, say, yeah, we're going to make the best of this. And I saw my brother, he started to play basketball with some friends at school. And I was like, you know what? I also need to learn to grow and be part of this new place and see if I can make it my home. And that's what I did. But this experience of mine has always stayed with me, which is why I wanted to write about immigrants, because they are so important. They are so brave for starting a whole different life, no matter how old they are, even if they're really old, like a grandparent, or even if they're really young, like a little child, like my sister was, or somewhere in the middle, like my parents were. It still takes so much effort and bravery to do what it takes to do as an immigrant, which means leaving everything you love and that's familiar to you behind, and say, I'm brave enough and I'm going to start something new. So I wanted to ask you guys a few questions and see, because in my part where I am right now, so I live in California now, and where I live, there are people from all over the world. My son is in 5th grade, and in his class, he has friends who are from China and who are from India and who are from Taiwan, and even some Europeans. And I just would love to know, where is everybody from? Are you guys have any of you moved to a different country, or have any of you moved to a different state, or to a different city, or a different town, or a different neighborhood, or a different school? I would love to know where everybody is coming from in the chat. So while you guys give me some answers, I'll talk a little bit more about Switzerland. So in Switzerland, I went to an international school because I didn't know the languages. And I couldn't go to a French speaking school or a German school. So my parents were like, you know what, why don't you go to an international school where everybody speaks English? And that's what I did. And one of the things that was mandatory in that school was for us to go skiing every Friday in winter for 8 weeks. And man, I had only seen snow once before, I think, in my life. And the idea of skiing down a mountain, I was like, no way. So I told my dad, I was like, I'm not gonna go. I'm too scared. I've never done this before. And I had him talk to my school principal and say she's not comfortable. But guess what? The principal said, I'm sorry, she has to go. Every student has to go skiing here, so she has to go. And I had no choice but to go buy some skis and buy myself a little ski suit and, get all ready and go and take lessons along with everybody else. And everybody else they were on different levels of skiing. Some were really, really good. Some were just beginners like me. Some were somewhere in the middle. But when I think back, I feel that was one of the bravest things I ever did. And it made me just so resilient. And it makes me so proud that I was able to conquer my fears and do something so big. And we'll come back to that in 1 second. Let me first look in the chat and see where everybody's from. Okay. So I see a lot of Charlottesville, Virginia, Santa Ana, California, lots of Santa Ana, Midlothian in Virginia. Many of our students' families are from Mexico, Peru, Guatemala, Colombia, Salvador. Wow, people are from all over the place. Ireland. That's so cool. Newport News, Virginia. I have never been to Virginia and I would love to come. I would love to see the fall over there. I've just heard wondrous things about it. It's on my list. That's so cool that everybody is from so many different places. Thank you so much for putting that in chat. So back to what I was saying. It was one of the bravest things I did, skiing on a mountain. And then I went year after year, every winter. And that's one of the small examples of how I learned to grow in a different place, in a new place. But being brave takes a lot of courage. And I would love to know, when was the last time you guys did something really brave? What is something that you're really proud of for being so brave in your life? It could be going down a slide. It could be climbing something. It could be writing a book, writing something, drawing something different, baking something, whatever you guys want. I just love to know, because being brave doesn't mean that it has to be something as big as immigration. It can be every small thing. Like me getting on my skis for the first time was really, really brave, I think. Okay, I'm getting some answers already. Turning off the lights at night. Yes. My son, he's in 5th grade. And even though he is 10 years old, he still sometimes gets nightmares at night. And he still kind of feels like, oh, I got scared at night. It was really dark. And I got him this little night light in his room so he can kind of feel a little bit less scared at night. But yeah, that can be a fear that, can stay with us. But turning off the lights at night is a very brave thing to do. I agree. Saved my brother from being bitten from a dog. Wow. I was bitten from a dog once. Yeah, I was really little. It was in Pakistan. I don't remember much from it, but I remember being bitten by it. It was my dad's dogs. One of them was called Rover, and the other one, I can't remember his name. Going to a new school. Yep, one of the bravest things. Riding a motorcycle. Wow. Rode my bike, going up a mountain in Big Bear, riding a snow scooter, touching a jellyfish. Wow. I love that. These are all great examples of being so, so brave. Moving, riding a bike, standing up, catching a fish and holding it, going to the dentist. Yes. Snowboarding, going on a trail, skiing, getting a shot, being in a blizzard. All very true things. Learning a new language, 100%. Swimming in a river. Saving myself from a cat scratch. Wow. That is so cool. Saving my brother from falling down the stairs. Wow. You know what? These examples are reminding me of something. One time, I remember we were really new in Switzerland, and I was supposed to watch my younger sister, and she was riding her bike and she fell down and she split open her chin and she was bleeding. And I remember trying to save her and trying to get my mom. And I still remember that incident where you guys reminded me of it. That's so cool. Getting a blood test. Yep. Getting braces for the first time. Yes. Hoverboard. Getting your teeth pulled. Yikes. Learning to climb the monkey bars. Yes. Man, that was one of the hardest things for me. Thank you so much for your answers, you guys. I have so many other questions, but I realize I'm not leaving that much time for Q&A. So I'd love to get down to some of your questions if you have any for me. Straight down the water slide. Yep.
All right, Sana, thank you so much for telling us about your life and for all of the wonderful chats that you all have been adding to answer Sana's questions. If you have questions for Sana, be sure to put them in the Q&A. And we have a lot of great questions there already. So we'll start with one that a few people have asked, including Milo and Maggie. They're curious to know how long it took you to write your book.
Very good question. It took me a long time to write this book. Even though the story is personal, it was very hard to write it down in words. So I think maybe it took me maybe 6 to 8 months to write a draft that I was really comfortable sharing with my publisher. And then once I received the book deal, it took another, I want to say 2 months, maybe, of going lots of back and forth edits, trying to perfect it. And then it took a long time for the publisher to actually publish it. So overall, I want to say it took a whole 2 years.
Excellent. And what was it like working with the illustrator? You had really nice things to say about her work.
Oh my gosh, it was wonderful. I think that she really translated her my words into images that are just wonderful. So they're not what you would think of right away. So, for example, when there's a spread in the book where she says, Maya made way for rays from the sun, and instead of drawing a sun and having Maya look at the sun or something like that, which I would have expected, Raina showed us Maya waving to a girl by the lockers, and it was basically saying that what, this is how she was starting to grow and make friends. So I thought that her illustrations were wonderful, and I loved working with her.
Excellent. All right, we have a question from a student who wants to know if you are still able to visit your family in Pakistan.
Oh, yes, I do. I go there every other year because I'm also, again, so far away, but I try and go every other year. Yes.
Excellent. Okay, kind of inspired by your question, students want to know what is something that you fear?
Hmm. Well, one of my biggest fears is swimming. I don't know how to swim. I never learned how to swim, and I am planning on learning it. I've tried to learn it twice now, and both times I gave up because I don't like it when my feet don't touch the ground. So it's one of my fears, but I'm working on it actively because I just ordered myself a new swimsuit and I'm going to learn. So it is something I'm scared of, but I'm hoping I can be courageous and brave.
I think we're all rooting for you, and it's just that repetition, like you said, it's good to make ourselves do things. So a question that a lot of other students have had is, what inspired you to turn the story into a book? Like why did you want to be a writer specifically?
I've always been wanting to write. I started writing when I was in Pakistan. When I was 8, 9 years old, I was writing for one of the youth magazines over there, and seeing my name in print. So it was something I have known that I wanted to do for a long, long time. And I wanted to turn this story into a book because when I moved to California and when I had my son, I realized that there were so many people from so many different places here. And I could have used a book like this, I think, when I was, young and immigrant. So I just wanted to put something out there for all of those kids who feel different or new.
Excellent. And related, actually, we have a question that says, how did you become such a great writer? And other students who have asked if you took writing classes or kind of how you developed your craft.
Well, I had the most amazing English teacher in Pakistan, Mrs. Victoria. She was amazing, and she was fantastic. So I think it's all started with an amazing teacher, as it always does. And after that, along the way, I just ended up having really good English teachers who encouraged me, and I started creative writing in college, and then I went and got my master's in creative writing as well. So lots and lots of writing. And when I wasn't earning degrees, I was still taking like night classes in writing. So I'm always taking either classes in writing, and I still do. I'm not a perfect writer, so I still take classes, and I think I always will.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, we are almost at time, so we have one more question, which is just, do you have any words of advice for anyone who's watching who might want to write their own book?
Oh, I love that. Well, my biggest advice is that to just go for it, because writing is something, in my own experience, what I found is that it's sometimes the story just kind of whirls in your head, right? And you're like, yeah, I'll get to it. But writing can be really hard. So I would just say, just start. Just put your fear aside and just start writing. And then make sure you revise. So come back to it over and over again. Don't just give up on it. Just keep revising it and then one day when you think it's done, just let it be done. Don't go back and revise it anymore. So that's another advice, but just start.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, I'm so sorry that we have to wrap things up. There are so many other great questions, but I think that we covered a lot, and it was just wonderful to hear your story. Thank you, Sana. And thank you to everyone who's watching. Please remember that you can visit vabook.org to explore the full schedule of upcoming Virginia Festival of the Book events, including another event with Sana next week. And thank you, Sana. We'll see you soon.
Thank you very much. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.